I know it's been a while since I made a YouTube video, mainly because I've been having a lot of personal stuff go down, mental health, stuff I had to keep track of, COVID, job stuff happening, and not to mention planning and then eventually having and going on my wedding slash honeymoon. So yes, I am now a married man, which is kind of what took up most of my priority, which is why I haven't made YouTube videos. And I don't want to say the last one I made was in December. So yeah, 7 months, 7 months. Yep. Been kind of busy, but finally taking the time to make a YouTube video and coming back. Think I'll do it's just a simple hobby video, no green screen, mainly because the poles I use for the green screen are at my parents' place because we use them for some lighting and backdrop for the wedding. So they're at my parents' place. I gotta just take the time to get the green screen, unless you guys like seeing this mess behind me while I talk. I don't know. All three of you, let me know how you feel about that. But yeah, this is my workstation. It's a little bit messy, so yeah. So with that awkward introduction words, let's talk about building an army list. Now, building an army list could be a little bit difficult for new people. So I'm going to try my best to break it down and kind of make an easy guide for you whoever's watching this. So first things first, you're going to need at least, at the bare minimum, you're going to at least need two things to build an army list. First one being your core rule book, obvious. And I'll get to reasons why in a sec while you'll need this. And then you'll also need the rule book for your army. And now you guys know I run Adeptus Sororitas, Sisters of Battle, which I'll probably be using some of the models later in this video if I remember to help give you examples. You're buying some models and you have enough for a game. So what do? Well, first you figure out who you're going to play with. Maybe you joined a Facebook group, or you already have some friends in the hobby and you're finally going to play them. Well, first thing you need to do is talk to your friends and figure out how many points or power level you're going to have. You see, Games Workshop created two different systems to use to help make a balanced game for you guys to play. Now, the first one is a more streamlined approach, which is called power level. Power level just basically looks at a unit. It says, hey, if you have this unit, it's, let's say, 10 points. Or if it's a unit that has multiple models, if we reach certain thresholds, you'll add this many points to the power level of that unit. It's not really hard. Not a lot of people like using it, mainly because it just talks about the unit in general. It doesn't bring up, what kind of weapons and stuff you're equipping your army with, which points does get on with, so it helps balance it out better. But power level is a good way for starting players who are not quite used to list building yet. So I'm going to mainly focus on, building your army list using points. So not really such a good definition of power level, mainly because I never had to use it even when I was first starting out, and I've never seen anyone use it, not in local games. And so far I've known I never seen anyone on the internet use power level. If you guys have, well, I don't know. Good for you, I guess. Happy birthday. All right. Now, there are some things that will obviously make the process easier, like having the rule books and your codex. There's also some applications that can help you build your army list. There's Battle Scribe, which is what most of the Warhammer community is going to recommend you. It's free to download. It's on phones, tablets, and PC. and you can easily share your army lists between, multiple devices. You can send your list through emails, fax, and or print your lists if you want or need to. A very handy app to use to build your army lists, especially when you're first getting used to building army lists. Battlescribe is a great app to use. And the other app is Games Workshop's own Warhammer app, and I can't even recommend it. I've tried to use it. It's fucking garbage. Games Workshop, they can hire people to come up with some of the best concept art, some of the best books, some of the best writers for books, some of the best people to design models and all that. But for whatever reason, they can't seem to find the right people to code a fucking app, because the app is garbage, and worst of all, they make you charge for this garbage app. When it comes to software, GW has no fucking clue, so just stay away from the app. Okay? You'll save yourself a big headache. And anyone that says, oh, the app is actually really good, they are lying. They are probably sponsored or some bullshit like that. Because I never met a single person that likes the Games Workshop Warhammer official app, except for, people that work for Games Workshop, which is just one person. I only met one person that works for Games Workshop, and they work at the local Warhammer store. So he's kind of required to, otherwise he'll get in trouble by his boss. Anyway, so once you installed and deleted the Warhammer app and then had the intelligence to download the Battlescribe app, you can also use a calculator and a notebook if you want to go old school, which sometimes it is nice. It's a nice sort of way to come down from a hard day's work for some reason. I know it's just weird. You think doing this game actually makes you enjoy doing math. I know it's kind of weird. It's weird saying it, but it makes math enjoyable. I don't know why. It just does. So once you know how many points, I'm going to use the points values from my last game as an example. 750 points. You and your opponent agree that you're going to have a small game of 750 points. Nothing crazy. And for me, I play Sisters of Battle. Not a super expensive army points wise, but not so cheap where I'm going to be having to put a shit ton of models on the table like with Tyranids, because Tyranids have a lot of cheap units points wise. Money wise, no, they need to fix that. As in make the models cheaper, not make them more expensive. That would be awful. So first things first, you need to figure out what kind of detachments are you going to have in your army. Usually with a small game like 750, you're probably going to only have one detachment, unless for some reason your army point values are just dirt cheap. So maybe orcs or again Tyranids. I don't think even Tyranids would be that cheap. I don't know. I haven't touched mine in a year, so bear with me there. So what are detachments? Well, these are detachments. You'll find them in your handy dandy rule book, core rule book, obviously. Now, as I kind of hold this up, hoping you guys can read it and understand it, a lot of these are going to be viable depending on what kind of army you're building. Are you just doing just your standard, oh, I'm just going to have some troops with guns and some leaders? You'll probably do a battalion. Are you going to do some, I'm going to strike super fast, super quick? You might want to do a vanguard or a patrol detachment. Are you just going to do vehicles, so tanks and stuff? And you'll probably want to do a patrol or again a vanguard. Yeah, vanguard. Now, from my last game, I just used a battalion because I just wanted 2 HQs and 3 troops and 1 heavy support. Now, it'll tell you what kind of characters you'll need to build a proper Battleforged detachment. And so for a battalion, yeah, that's what I'm pointing at. For battalion, I needed 2 HQs and 3 troop choices to be a Battleforged battalion. And you always want to make sure your army's Battleforged. You don't have to, but you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot because you're missing out on free command points. And you want command points to do stratagems, which I'll talk about later, because that will sometimes affect what kind of army you build with your list. And so when you look close, how do you tell which unit is what type? Well, the handy symbols right here. And on your data sheets, sorry, I'm moving around a lot because I have, you know, the books right next to me. Well, I guess. And on your data sheets, you'll see each unit has a nice little symbol. That's how you'll know what kind of unit it is. So with this skull, it's a HQ. Also, the little explosion, that's my heavy support, and so on and so forth. And that's how you make sure you have the right kind of units. What comes next? Now you figured out what kind of detachment and what kind of units you need, at minimum you need for your detachment. Well, next you're gonna have to go to the back of your codex and look up the points value for all of your units. Or if you have Battle Scribe, or hopefully not the GW official army builder app, because again, it's garbage. It will help keep track of your points for you. But it's always nice to have access to any and all resources as possible. And remember, the internet is always your friend too. And obviously, I'm making this video and putting it out to try and help people. Now, how do points work and how they're different from the power level system? Well, the power level system, if I go back to these data sheets, let's say I'll go back to, what did I use in my last game? Here we go. Here's the easy one. I used these guys in my last game, Penitent Engines. I don't know if you guys can see, but they have a power level of 3. That's actually just for one model. Since the max amount of models I can have in a unit of Penitent Engines is 3, probably can't read it from there, but basically, if I have 2, it goes up to 6, and 3 goes up to 9. So, you know, going from there, if I have one unit, a full unit of Penitent Engines, I have 9 points out of my, I don't know how much it would be, the 7,500. I don't know how many points would be the equivalent of my 750 game, but yeah. With points, you go into more detail. I found my Penitent Engines, and probably can't tell from there, but for each unit or each model, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot they went up to 4 in each unit now. So each model is 55 points, and so I could potentially go up to 4 models, which would be about 220 points if I'm doing my math right. And of course, that's just the models themselves. I would also have to go back further. The weapons are in front this time. That's actually kind of weird. Ninth edition changed up the template a little bit. I would have to find the weapons on here and find the points values for the weapons on here. Most of the time, if it's just the default loadout, you don't have to worry about extra points. But like, let's say, you know, since I'm running a battalion, I'm going to need troop choices. So I am going to run, you know, Sisters of Battle, which I know off the top of my head, each model is 11 points, and I usually run about 10 per unit, 10 models per unit. But I also have some special weapons like my flamers and stuff, which increase the points value because each heavy flamer is an additional 10 points. So on top of that, so 2 out of 10 of my models are getting an extra 10 points. So an extra 20 points on top of the usual 110. Yeah, 110 plus 20. So it's 130 for that unit of Sisters of Battle because I added 2 heavy flamers to the unit. And that's, of course, that's before adding any special relics, because relics that give you special bonuses will also require points. Well, depending on the relic, will require extra points, so on and so forth. So the points go into more detail about breaking down what you're building with your army, which is why more people prefer to use the point system, because it balances the game out better than the power scaling. Because with the power scaling system, it doesn't talk about gear and weapons. It just does how many models are you using. Okay, that's your power level. It's based off how many models, not how many models and their equipment. Now, once you got it all figured out, like for me, with for my game, I used a Canoness, Junith Aretha. Junith, I can't pronounce her last name. She's on the pulpit. I'll show you guys in a sec. 30 Sisters of Battle divided into 3 units, so 10 per unit. That gave me my Battle Forged Battalion. Plus, with battalions, I have the option for extra stuff. I took an extra heavy support unit, Penitent Engines, which gave me about 765 points by the end of it. And yeah, I was about 15 points over, but since I communicated with my opponent, he was okay with that because he was like 5 points over anyway. Usually small discrepancies like that will happen, but usually as long as you're, keeping a healthy communication with your opponent and being cordial, usually small discrepancies aren't going to be that big of a deal. But don't go crazy and abusing that, because like you don't want to be like, oh, whoops, I accidentally went 100 points over. Now at that point, it's just cheating, because there's a big difference, especially with some models. There's a big difference between 10 points and 100 points. There's a lot of wiggle room there. So, if you're over a little bit or you're under a little bit, that's fine. But don't abuse your opponent's trust and, go crazy and say, oh yeah, my points values are actually this. I'm a little bit over, then 100 points over, and you have a full tank. Not really fair. Which is why I always say, make sure you always bring your codexes and rule books, so you can always call out those people trying to be a little unfair, especially to newer players. What are some basic things you need to know about building your army list now that you know what all the points values and stuff are? Well, here, I'm gonna break out my models and I'll show you. Okay, like I said, here's an example of what my 750 point army looked like in my last game. Now, to some this may seem like a lot, to others this might seem not enough, but that's what the point values were. Why was my army set up this way? Well, because I mainly wanted to have mostly shooting with just a tiny bit of melee. Obviously, my shooting was mostly handled by my 30 Sisters of Battle back here. They handled the majority of the shooting and of my objective securing. Like most games, you're going to probably be working on objectives, because 9th edition is a very objective focused game, because GW was tired of people complaining about getting tabled and automatically losing. So they made it more objective focused, which is kind of a really good thing because it makes it fairer for people who have smaller armies, like Custodes, Grey Knights, stuff like that. And then obviously my small amount melee was my Penitent Engines right here. Why did I build this army the way I did will also be something you want to think about, is areas of effect. Because most units, especially your HQs, like my Canoness and Junith right here, they have special bonuses that help out other units in my army. Mainly for both of them, I want them to be with my shooty people, because they allow for re-rolling of missed hit rolls. Just hit rolls. Both of them allow re-rolling of my missed shots when firing, which is important again for a shooting army. Not only that, with this new edition, they gave Junith a special warlord trait that allows me to use something called war hymns that usually only priests can use. But now, if I make her my warlord, I can use war hymns and help give bonuses to my other units. So, which is why another reason why I paid the 110 points for her. 110, 120, I can't remember off the top of my head, and I had too lazy to open the book back up. Now, why would I do this? Areas of effect you really want to get the most out of. Otherwise, if you're just building an army and you say, oh yeah, this guy looks cool, this guy looks cool, you're not really going to get a lot done, and you're going to have a much harder time winning the game if that's what you're trying to do. You can, again, I'm not telling you you have to build your army this way, but your army be the most efficient that it could. And the most efficient way that it could is when you know what your models can do and what they cannot do. Like, for example, Junith is a great frontline HQ choice versus a Canoness, which wants to be more in the middle. So, because she has the ability to not only help other units, including herself, re-roll hit rolls. She can also move 12 inches because she's a floating pulpit. It makes sense. And so I want to use our Warlord trait for the hymns to boost my other units, and her movement allows me to move her around and be as efficient as possible. And when you go through your codex, you want to pay close attention, especially to your HQ choices, about how they affect other units in your army, so you know what will be the best combination to use. Another important thing you want to pay attention to when you're reading the different abilities of your units, it is not only how they affect other units and how you combine with do combinations with them. You also want to pay attention to the keywords, because each data sheet, the unit is going to have specific keywords that'll tell you how they can interact with each other. Whether it be building your army with another Imperial army, or something as simple as doing rerolls. For example, pay attention to key rolls with my Canoness right there. With her rerolls, allow me to use the same rerolls, not just for my troops, but I can also use them for my vehicles, which, with the Exorcist being considered one of the best vehicles in the game, with one of the more powerful missiles or rockets or whatever, you want to be able to hit as many targets as possible. So to get the most out of this Exorcist, when I'm using it, I usually want to keep it close to the Canoness right there. So I'm going to pay the points cost and build my list to make sure I have at least one Canoness by my, that way I can use her rerolls to get the most out of my Exorcist. And there are also other specific models that build off each other. Like, for example, I was to use more melee focused army, I may want to include these melee units of Repentia and the Superior. Now, how they build off each other is the Superior right here allows this unit in front of her, the Repentia, to not only advance and charge, which will actually help you get into melee combat faster, which is very important since they can be killed almost instantly. When you're building your army, that's something you want to consider, because why would you want to take just Repentia, for example? Why would I want to just take my Repentia without the Superior? It just makes it harder for them to get into combat. Versus if I take the Superior without the Repentia, well, what is she doing? She's doing nothing. She's just a waste of points. So that's another thing you want to consider when building your army lists is, am I getting the most value out of my points by including this model? Because I'm not going to pay the points to use my Repentia without the Superior, and vice versa. And before all you say anything, yes, Repentia are not GW official. I don't care. I like these ones better than the official. Don't sue me. So yeah, a little guide. Hopefully it made some sense to you guys. It made sense in my head. Hopefully this gives you some sort of idea when building your army lists. Have fun doing math. It actually does become kind of like a Zen meditation type thing when you do the math building your lists. Remember to always read your data sheets, because that will always help you in the end. And just have fun with it. That's the most important part. Having fun doing it will make the process a whole lot easier, especially learning the whole deal with building an army list. Have fun playing, have fun painting. May the Emperor's light protect.